Chapter 181 The Reversal of the Law. I'll explain. This place is called Heaven's Outer Hell, also known as Purgatory. Purgatory? Here? Yes, it's basically a prison on earth. Heretics who rejected divine law live here. I understand now. You denied the existence of God in your homeland, and that's why you were cast down here. Sharon didn't bother correcting her misunderstanding. She wouldn't understand even if he explained, and she wasn't entirely wrong. None of them believed in Ankara. You use magic, so you must be descendants of the Norse. How unfortunate. Once you fall into purgatory, all that's left for you is death. Eventually, you'll all die. Yeah, maybe, but that includes you, doesn't it? Kanya held her chin high, clearly feeling superior. Absolutely not. I'm one of the chosen blessed by God. I'm guaranteed eternal life. Sharon recalled the myth of Gargo. If someone could grant eternal life, they probably would be considered a god. But realistically, it felt distant. All living beings age and eventually die. Not even magic could prevent death. Now understanding who Sharon's group was, Kanya relaxed a bit. She disliked heretics, but these people weren't even given the chance to receive divine power. In her eyes, they were pitiful. Well, you're lucky. Come with me. I'll show you a place to stay. Why are you suddenly being nice to us? If you're one of the faithful and we're heretics, shouldn't you hate us? Kanya turned away, realizing no one was following her. You really are Nor descendants. So suspicious. In heaven, you'd have been kicked out. But here in purgatory, it's fine. No law protects even the faithful here. We're in the same boat now, but we need to hurry. Things get dangerous after sunset. As they entered the valley, the cliffs grew steeper. The place was eerily silent, not even insects around, just their footsteps echoed in the vast, damp canyon. Don't tell me more monsters are going to appear. Don't worry, the Valley of the Whirlwind Serpent is governed by one powerful law. There are no dangerous monsters like the poison-horned ogre here. What's the law? The Whirlwind Serpent. It's a monster said to have lived here for over 10,000 years, but it's probably sleeping now. It doesn't come out during the day. That's why we need to get to Norse shelter before sunset. You said we're Nor descendants. So were the Norse not faithful to the gods? Of course they were. Then why is Norse shelter in purgatory? Kanya sighed, then explained more clearly. There are three main races of the faithful in heaven. Norse are one of them. When the faithful are born, their lifespan is already set. Once their time is up, they receive eternal life. But some Norse couldn't accept that fate and ran away to purgatory, creating an independent society. Sharon didn't quite understand what it meant to be born with a set lifespan, but the idea of eternal life was even more puzzling, so he let it go. He appreciated Kanye's help. She was guiding them to the Nor community because she thought they were one of her kind. Thanks, Kanya. You're very kind. What? Don't misunderstand. No faithful person would be kind to heretics. We're just going because we need something to. When we get there, act like you don't know us. Despite her cold words, she couldn't meet Sharon's eyes. Lena, puffing her cheeks, added, Yeah, my sister has her reasons, but I really want to help. Haha, thanks, Lena. You're very thoughtful. Lena blushed at Sharon's compliment. Kanye stopped. She understood that Lena, being young and emotional, might be drawn to someone like Sharon, but as one of the faithful, such thoughts were unacceptable. Dragging Lena away, she scolded her in a whisper. Lena, what are you thinking? You know we can't be with heretics. Even having feelings like that is blasphemous. I know, but that guy. No, just because he's good looking doesn't mean anything. That kind of thinking will ruin your life. How would you know? You don't even have a boyfriend. You'll understand when you're older. Just listen to me. From now on, act cold toward him. I don't like him because he's handsome. I like him because he's kind. Kind? Him? Kanya looked stunned. Maybe she saw what Lena meant. Sharon did feel different, but that was the danger of heretics. Their freedom could lead to corruption. All right, answer me clearly. Do you like good-looking guys or kind ones? Lena, now 14, incapable of romantic feelings, answered honestly, both. He has to be good-looking and kind. Kanya sighed. I just don't get you. Don't worry, sis. I'm not going to fall in love with someone I just met. Besides, we're not really that different from them right now, are we? Technically, faithful ones weren't even supposed to enter purgatory without permission. There could be punishments, but Kanya couldn't turn back now. Still, she regretted bringing Lena. Even if her sister had more lifespan, it wasn't a responsible decision. I'm sorry, Lena. It's okay, sis. I begged you to let me come. You don't have to do everything alone. I want to bring Mom a gift too. Kanya stroked her head. The baby who once cried for milk was now this grown. She prayed God would bless her sister with eternal life. She was a lovely girl. Surely Ra would listen. All right, let's move. The valley became more maze-like. Shallow streams ran through narrow paths, and the air was damp. Amy realized that Kenya didn't know where she was going. Her path was random, like someone lost. Is North Shelter still far? We are not actually going there yet. We don't even know where it is. What? You said we were heading there. It's the destination, yes, but there's no way someone like us would know its exact location. Seeing Amy's glare, Kanya explained quickly. Don't worry, we have a way to find it. What way? Using drones. Nor's shelter is also a marketplace. There's a guide from the market waiting in the valley. We're scanning the area with drones to find where people might be staying. Sharon looked up the two drones flying overhead. In their original world, this would be called ancient relics, but the technology was anything but primitive. He wondered what Nate would think if he saw this. I get that the drones scout the area, but how do you see what they see? Kanya tapped her temple. They're linked to my brain through something called a frequency. Frequency? Think of it like an invisible signal, like sound. There's a technology called retina vision. The drone sends a signal to my frequency, and the image appears directly in my eye. Look at my left eye. A strange electric glow flickered in her pupil. A detailed aerial view of the valley unfolded within it. Tiny but high resolution. This is what the drone sees. You can see it clearly, but it takes up half my vision. The image is projected directly into my retina. That's amazing. Tess couldn't hide her envy. She loved the ancient relics, and drones especially could change the game in intelligence operations. Where can I get one? You don't. These are issued, not sold. Only Mecha Tribe members get them at age 12. Can you sneak me one? No way. They're tightly tracked. If you get caught, it's a serious crime. Oh, I really want one. Even other faithful are jealous, but it's encoded for one user only. If someone else tries to use it, it shuts down and sets off an alarm. Knowing it was one of a kind made Tess even more frustrated. She fell silent. I found a place where Norris might be staying, not far from here. Kanya sprinted and stopped at the cave. Her drone landed on her glove and morphed into a gauntlet. A captured image of the spot appeared, confirming it was the right place. As she moved to enter, Tess stopped her. Wait, I smell blood. Blood? I don't smell anything. Heh? That's because I've trained for this. Guess your tech can smell, huh? What? The Mecha Tribe's tech can detect 14,000 kinds of smells. The drone just doesn't have that feature. Everyone suddenly realized there was a quiet rivalry between Tess and the drone. Sure, the drone's scouting abilities were incredible, but to Rian, Tess being jealous of a metal machine was pathetic. Enough, just focus. Don't get insecure over a machine. Rian's blunt words calmed Tess, and she activated her sensory schema to track the blood scent. She stepped into the cave, sniffed around, then checked outside again. After finishing her analysis, she turned back. The smell of blood is strong inside. Someone's definitely in there, but I don't think they've left. Why not? Because the scent gets stronger the deeper you go. If they'd left, the scent would be outside too. Then why were you checking outside longer? It's a standard procedure. If there were blood outside too, the cave could be a trap. So it's probably safe. Let's go. Sharon cast a shining spell. A glowing orb appeared in his hand, startling Kanya and Lena. The Norse could use magic, but this was unlike anything he'd seen in heaven. Did you see that? He made light with his hand. Yes, people from the land below use strange magic. Hey, doesn't that look like, you know what? Lena, that's a sinful thought. Ask Ra for forgiveness now. Lena pouted. She hadn't said it out loud. Her sister guessed what she was thinking because she was thinking it too. Even so, blasphemy was a sin, so she silently prayed to Ra for forgiveness. End of chapter 181. Chapter 182. The Reversal of Law 3. As they moved forward another 10 meters, the smell of blood grew stronger. Tension spiked. Tess was just about to tell Sharon to slow down when the cave suddenly shook. Thick pillars burst out of the walls, massive enough to crush a person if they weren't careful. Reacting on instinct, Sharon's group jumped back. With some distance between them and the pillars, the scene looked even stranger. Dozens of them crisscrossed like a barrier. Is everyone okay? Anyone hurt? Sharon called out. I think we're fine, Amy replied. What about you, Sharon? I'm okay too. Was that a trap? No, Tess replied. There's no sign this cave was artificially altered, and the timing was way too fast for a normal trap. Tess had a point. If it were a real trap meant to kill them, it would have triggered when they were too close to escape. But the pillar seemed more like a warning or a barrier to keep them from advancing. If it's not a trap, then what is it? If it's not a trap, then what is it? Just then a boy's voice rang out from the end of the cave. Identify yourselves. I won't miss this time. Sharon raised his light magic, shining to illuminate the cave. A boy about their age was crouched down with both hands on the floor. Behind him sat a strong-looking man with a beard, leaning against the wall. Blood seeped between his fingers as he clutched his stomach. It was Gardrak, the guide to Nor's sanctuary. As Gardrak examined Sharon's group, he turned to the boy. Clove, how many times have I told you not to use earth magic in caves? If the ceiling collapses, we're all dead. Clove stood up slowly, though his eyes still showed suspicion. Despite not knowing their language, Sharon sensed a strange familiarity. Something about their accents reminded him of the continental common tongue. Kanya stepped forward and spoke in the Norian language. You're Norian, right? We've been looking for you. Oh, so you're one of those high and mighty chosen? What's a Mecha tribe member doing here? I thought you people hated adventure. We're here for Nor's sanctuary. She trailed off, noticing Gardrak's pale face. His wound was worse than expected. It was odd. This valley, governed by a single divine law, shouldn't be a place where injuries could happen easily. You're hurt. Was it the swirling serpent? No, not the law. It was Kergos. Gardrak replied. The name Kergos struck a nerve with Sharon's group. At first they weren't sure what they heard, but Kanya began translating their conversation aloud using surface-level language magic. Kergos, are they hunting this far out? There are no heretics here, so it wasn't a hunt. They targeted us directly. I got lucky, missed any vital organs, but if the bleeding continues, who knows what will happen? Sharon jumped in. Kergos, what do you mean? Who are they? Kergos are another race of chosen. This valley is safe from monsters, so it's often used by heretics trying to reach North's sanctuary. Naturally, that draws other hunters. So the Kyrgos hunt heretics. They'll catch up soon. They're excellent trackers. They can even use giant tech. Probably used it to sniff us out, like Tess did. Sharon guessed this giant tech might be Schema. If that was true, there wasn't much time. Irene tried telepathy with the Norian group. Can you take us to Nor's sanctuary? Gardrak and Clove looked stunned. They couldn't understand the language, yet they somehow understood the meaning clearly. What are these kids? Is this a fairy's power? No, they're from the land of Earth. Like you, they can use magic, maybe a bit different, but they seem to be descendants of Nor. Kanya carefully framed Sharon's group in a way that would make the Norian people more accepting. To survive in purgatory, joining a Norian community was essential. So, your imitations? Clove scoffed. His eyes now burned with disdain. Norians were known for curiosity and for being frequent lawbreakers in heaven. They also knew many forbidden secrets, including the truth of the land of Earth. To them, the Earth was a shadow of the perfect sky world. Therefore, its people were mock humans, inferior copies of the real thing. To Clove, Sharon's group was beneath even the lowest beings in heaven. We are mock humans? What's that supposed to mean? Clove ignored him and pointed at some backpacks by the wall. Hey, you, carry this. One each, his voice dripped with arrogance. Amy exploded. Why should we carry your stuff? Because we're escaping and you're helping. Yeah, but why us? Because you're imitations. Without us, you wouldn't exist. You should be grateful. Clove acted like obedience from Sharon's group was a given. Then, without asking, he started playing with Amy's hair. You're not bad for an imitation. Want to come live at my house? Purgatory's safer with me. Amy's eyes turned sharp. She could overlook cultural arrogance, but touching a woman like that had nothing to do with heaven. It was just being a creep. Hands off, or I'll blow you away. Huh? You? Use magic on me? Maybe you know a trick or two, but you're still just an imitation. Enough, Clove. Gardrak's stern voice cut in. Clove backed off, clearly shaken by his mentor's anger. Sharon's group glared, their eyes cold. What? What are you going to do? Clove, we didn't have time for this. Do you want me to die here? Realizing his teacher was still bleeding, Clove quickly helped him up. Gardrak, leaning on his student, apologized to the others. Sorry, we've just never met mock humans before. I think that threw us off. But you're still people, right? I'm Gardrak. I think it's time we left this place. Will you help? You came looking for Norse Sanctuary, didn't you? We'll guide you. Gardrak at least acted like a real mage. Apologizing in front of his student wasn't easy, but he knew that survival was more important than pride. Sharon's group, realizing they couldn't waste more time, silently picked up the bags. They reached the twisted pillar barrier Clove had made. He struggled to find a way out. Amy smirked. He'd trapped himself with his own spell. So much for being a genius. Sharon, however, wasn't paying attention to Clove. He was thinking about the magic he'd used. Summoning stone pillars from a wall was powerful, but inefficient by the methods Chiron knew. Maybe ancient magic used a different system entirely. Curious, he asked Gardrak, what kind of magic is that? Before Gardrak could answer, Clove interrupted with a sneer. Haha, you can't do this. That's hilarious. Earth magic is basic stuff. He winked at Amy. Maybe I'll teach you sometime. No thanks, I don't want my friends doing your dirty work. Her sarcasm made Clove turn red. Gardrak was just as curious about Sharon's magic. The glowing orb of light floating near Sharon's hand shouldn't be possible in this dark cave unless he had a light spirit, which he clearly didn't. Strange. You guys really can't use magic like this? We have earth magic, but we don't have one that makes pillars burst from cave walls. Maybe it's a different system. We draw power from nature. Fire where there's fire. Water where there's water. Clove used earth magic because we're surrounded by stone, though he didn't consider the cave might collapse. I did think of that. It was an emergency. Clove protested, but Sharon's group ignored him. They were talking silently through their telepathic link. Magic drawn from nature. Interesting. And pretty destructive too. That spell Clove used would be super advanced in our world, but he made it look easy, despite being an idiot. Amy added, using natural elements means you can master multiple types of magic. We usually specialize in one. Irene pointed out a flaw, but that also means you're limited by your environment. No water nearby, no water magic. In short, ancient magic was powerful, flexible, and could use many elements, but also had serious environmental limits. Whether sky magic or earth magic was still an open question. Once they exited the cave, Kanya asked Gardrak, so where's Norse Sanctuary? I can't tell a Mecha Tribes person that. Just know it's not here. It's hidden and requires magic to reach. Follow me. Suddenly, Rena, who had been monitoring drone signals, shouted, Sis, we've got trouble. Kanya closed one eye to receive the drone's feed. A group was fast approaching from a nearby valley. It's the Kergos. We have to move. Gardrak's face fell. It's too late. Their sense of smell is incredibly sharp. They've picked up the scent of blood. They couldn't hear anything yet, but that only meant one thing. The enemy had at least one high-level tracker among them. What do we do, Master? Clove panicked, but Gardrak had no plan. According to Rena, about 20 Kergos were closing in. Gardrak was wounded. Clove lacked real combat experience, and if they fought now, they'd all die. Maybe we can try this, Sharon said. Everyone turned toward him. End of chapter 182. Chapter 183. The Reversal of the Law 4. Should I go in? No, nor uses nature-based powers which are disadvantageous in tight spaces. The enemy knows this and is trying to lure us in. The captain shouted into the cave using his schema ability to amplify his voice. Come out now or you'll regret it. I'll count to 3. His men drew their bows and nocked arrows. Though not explosive like Ark's arrows, the arrows launched with schema's power could pierce even solid rock. Inside a cave, there would be no room to dodge them. 1. Silence. 2. The captain's face twisted. Were they ready to die? The only thing the Nord could do was use earth magic to seal the cave, just a temporary fix, with no escape route. 3. Suddenly, something shot out of the cave. The captain reacted instinctively, raising his sword to block it, but the projectile exploded before he fully realized what it was. Damn it! A fiery blast engulfed him. The shockwave hit his men, and their startled horses reared up in panic. Taking that chance, Sharon's group escaped from the cave. The captain knocked off his horse and, smoking from the blast, glared at them. Picking himself up, he planted his sword on the ground and yelled, There with the mecha. Don't let them escape. He hadn't expected Mecha to be involved while chasing Nor. Sharon had anticipated this opening. Kanya and Rena had waited with their drones and fired Arc at just the right moment to create an escape route. There are too many of them. Find a narrow path. Kanya used her drone to scout and redirected them. The pursuers realized their plan and began firing arrows. Even from 100 meters, their arrows flew with deadly speed, narrowly missing Sharon's group. I'll hold them off, Clove shouted. No, just run. I can't let Nor's honor go unpaid. Clove touched the water and cast an ancient magic called Shaving. The stream forced the stream froze instantly, turning white. Icy pillars rose from the frozen surface, like those they saw inside the cave. Even while running, Sharon watched the spectacle. The scale of ancient magic powered by nature was enormous. The path ahead was now blocked with ice pillars, impassable for horses. Crack! The ice shattered as the pursuers smashed through with weapons and fists. Are Nor and Mecca working together? Just like heretics come. Kanya aimed arc and yelled back, "We're followers of the same god. You have no reason to force the law on us." The projectile shot out. A warrior sliced it midair with his great sword, but twin explosions burst behind him. Those who defy the law must be executed. We are the chosen people of God. The pursuers roared, weapons raised. These were not the primitive Kurgos of Sharon's world, but high-ranking nobles, luxurious armor, expensive accessories, elite warriors. Why are they like this? Sharon asked Kanya. Aren't we all God's people? They're religious zealots. They hunt heretics, even among God's own. Arrogant and aggressive, it's trouble if you get involved. Sharon stayed silent. Too late, he was already involved. They're strong too, thanks to giant abilities. In purgatory, which is lawless, they can do whatever they want. If we're caught, they won't kill us nicely. The gap between them and the pursuers was closing. Not only were all the pursuers Kima users, but Sharon's group also had an injured member, Gadrak. Clove, let's use Aios. Gadrak shouted, "But master, you're hurt." "Doesn't matter, we'll die anyway at this rate." Gadrak cast Aios, a wind spell, and began to float. Clove followed, but as they ascended, they started swaying dangerously, likely to crash into the cliff. Sharon realized something. If they were lost, there'd be no way to find Nor's sanctuary. He had to act. "Everyone, grab someone. We're teleporting." With limited options, they used photonization magic to teleport the whole group. Amy grabbed Tess, Sharon grabbed Rian, and Canis and Arin held Kanya and Rena. The pursuers had already caught up. A silver sword came down toward Sharon's head, but just before it struck, their bodies turned to light and soared away. The sudden transformation shocked Godrak and Clove. They had never seen someone become light, let alone bring Mecha with them. How did they use light magic without borrowing nature's power? In ancient magic, all spells rely on nature. Light is the hardest element to harness, too weak, too scattered. Normally, Nor could only cast light magic at shining spots, where light naturally gathers. But Sharon's group was different. They produced light from their own bodies. Clove was shaken. These weren't mere copies or fakes, but something entirely beyond. Nor don't seem to know teleportation magic, Irene said. Of course not, Amy scoffed. Photonization theory is one of the greatest discoveries of magical history. Don't underestimate the geniuses of the Earth Nation. But the sky-bound Kurgos were just as formidable. They used external force to run vertically up cliffs. Amy fired a fire strike. The pursuers split to dodge it and took an even faster path around the cliff. Persistent jerks. "Let me try," Irene said. She used her psychic tendrils to mind control one enemy. One fell for it and attacked his own team, causing confusion. "You fools," the captain growled. He took a deep breath and let out a howl. A schema technique. Its echo shook the minds of the magicians. Nor's Ayo spells collapsed. Sharon resisted with pure willpower. It was a mental attack like Etella's scream. He teleported to catch falling Gadra, while Amy caught Clove with photonization to stop their fall. Soon, the others landed safely. "Damn, that howl. Nor are weak to Kurgos," Gadrak muttered, but he couldn't understand why Sharon's group was unaffected. "How are you all fine?" Canis rolled his eyes. "Fine? My head's ringing." "Then how did you cast magic?" "You just push through. If you can't handle that, don't call yourself a mage." Unlike Nor, who rely on nature, Earth Nation magic combines omniscience and omnipotence, more complex, but it strengthens mental resilience. And Sharon's group was full of special cases. Irene was a mind defense expert. Amy, thanks to her red eyes, was immune. Sharon had an iron-willed mind, on par with Amy's powers. Clove face planted into the stream and stood up angrily. "You, how dare you throw me down like that?" He couldn't tolerate Amy's arrogance anymore. "You're dead meat." He stopped mid-sentence. Amy's eyes glowed red and her aura chilled the air. "Don't bother me during battle. I'll deal with your whining later." Clove turned slowly to see the Kurgos closing in. It's over. We're gonna get caught and tortured. If you're not gonna fight, stay out of the way. Amy snapped, dragging Clove to safety. Even Gadrak didn't bother stopping her this time. Do you have a plan? Not sure, but I timed it right. Sharon, is it ready? Yeah, just barely. Ready? Ready for what? Sharon looked up. His spirit zone reached high into the sky. No longer the standard square, but a warped, custom shape. It had taken a long time to prepare. He cast mass teleportation without touching anyone, a magic he'd learned at the cost of nearly dying at a deadly cliff. Catch them. They're escaping again, the captain yelled and cast Howl once more. It echoed like a cannon blast. But Sharon didn't flinch. He'd faced worse with Marsha's sonic weapon. Calmly, Sharon looked him in the eye and triggered the spell. A massive burst of light enveloped them and launched them to the cliff's summit. Damn it, even Howl doesn't work, the captain cursed in frustration. End of chapter 183. 184. The reversal of the law. Now that he thought about it, the howling wasn't the real problem. He had never seen magic that turned into a huge flash of light and shot into the sky like that. How did they even do that? Who are they? Two expert trackers began to pursue Sharon's group. One sniffed the air like a dog, while the other stuck out his tongue and looked toward the sky. The one using his sense of smell gave up. Captain, the wind's blocked. I can't follow their scent. The one using taste held on a bit longer. With his tongue out and his eyes rolled back, he finally said, I can taste it. They went that way. Once the reinforcements arrived, the captain got on his horse and turned toward the direction the smeller had indicated. They only crossed one wall. They couldn't have gone far. After them. Kiria, ya, ya. The pursuit team shrieked as they turned back the way they came. 1 minute later, Sharon and his team reappeared at their original location using a flash of light. It had been Sharon's idea to trick Cargo's tracking ability. Since their scent was already all over this area, the trackers wouldn't suspect they had returned. By the time they did, it would be too late. Godrock leaned on Clove for support, pointing toward a narrow gap in the valley. Thanks to you, we made it. They won't find us here. Let's go this way. There's probably a path. Amy, still unsure, asked, where exactly is Norse? Sanctuary. How much farther do we have to go? That's what I want to ask. How do you really control light magic like that? Do you extract it from the air? No, we don't use that kind of method. Why do you ask? To reach Norse Sanctuary, you need a place where light gathers. It's similar to the magic you used, but it can take us much further. Just trust me. There's a shining spot up ahead. Sharon guessed Godrock was talking about teleportation using light. It seemed like they'd used the power of photons to instantly travel to the sanctuary. It was a smart idea. Even if the pursuers killed their guide, the sanctuary's location would remain secret. The people of Nor clearly thought like true mages. Sharon couldn't help but wonder what kind of place was Nor's sanctuary. With growing curiosity, he followed the narrow gap out of the valley. Meanwhile, where are they hiding? The captain of the pursuit team was frustrated. They'd been searching for 20 minutes and still couldn't find any trace of the group. A scouting team rode in, their faces showing defeat. Nothing, no signs in the Maru Valley or the Fun Creek. Damn it, we had them. But Captain, doesn't it seem strange? How did they escape? That place wasn't even a light gathering area, like the ones Nor uses. The captain was thinking the same thing. As far as he knew, no mage in Nor could use magic like that. Maybe it was an outsider species, but they looked too human. He had been hunting heretics for 400 years and suddenly recalled something from ancient history. Could it be the Earth people? A sharp light appeared in the captain's eyes. If that were true, chasing them was no longer just a mission. It was a problem for the entire system. Mecca sought knowledge, nor sought the unknown, but Kergos pursued God, which made them the only people who knew the full truth. The Earth people weren't just clones, at least not to the Kergos. They were a serious threat to the sacred laws. Call off the pursuit. We're returning to Shamaim. We need to report this first. Just then, the ground began to tremble. What started as a minor tremor grew stronger. Everyone's eyes widened. No way. Nor used this valley because as long as they avoided one specific law, it was a safe zone. Nothing dangerous could happen here. But this vibration meant something had gone terribly wrong. A whirlpool serpent, a mythical creature appearing during the daytime that had never happened in recorded history. The law is breaking. A violent wind surged and everything went black for the 20 men. Then came screams, horrible cries of pain. As time passed, those cries faded into silence. When the darkness lifted, sunlight shone on the valley again, now cold and still. On the red stream, thousands of pieces of flesh floated. Shamaim? Sharon looked confused. Kanya realized she'd been too brief and explained. She wasn't used to people from the earth, so she sometimes forgot they didn't know things. It's a region in heaven where the divine citizens live, also called the first heaven. First heaven, like the first level of the sky, Godrock stepped in. It was easier for him to explain since he was a heretic. Heaven is divided into 7 layers. From the first to the seventh heaven, the first is called Shamain, where the citizens of God live. Sharon remembered the scene he saw from above, a giant circular city divided in like pie into 6 zones, with one more in the center. Godrock confirmed that those were the 7 heavens, so all the races live together in Shemaim. Yes, they have separate areas, but they all live in the first heaven. Even Kergos live quietly there. The law protects all citizens, but purgatory is different, outside the law's reach. Surviving here is hard. How many races live here in purgatory? Too many to count. There are outer species too. No one knows where they came from, like the one-horned demon you fought, but only 3 races are still considered true citizens who follow the divine law. Nor, Mecca, and Kergos. What does Kergos like then? Godrock smirked. They love God. Godrock, that's blasphemy. Kanye snapped, but Godrock didn't care. Once he became a heretic, no law could control him. He gave up God and gained freedom. Kergos love battle. Their role is hunting. That's why they're the only ones allowed in and out of purgatory, though they see it differently. Even Kanya had to admit it. I really hate that race. Using a giant's power doesn't make you a giant. They're just pretending to follow the law. What is the law anyway? Sharon had heard the word often, but it didn't seem to mean the same thing as in his world. Kanya looked shocked. You don't know? Doesn't your world have laws? We do, but do you have to follow them? Of course, the law is the will of the great Ra. Anyone who goes against it can't exist. That's why it's the law. Sharon spread his hands in frustration. But we're breaking the law right now, aren't we? Kanya got even more upset. Exactly. That's why we're suffering in purgatory. Do you want to live in a place like this forever? Chloe snapped back. Why not? Better than living in some cramped heaven. Oh, really? Then enjoy it. Spend your life getting hunted by Kurgos for being a heretic. Just as Clove was about to argue, Godrock stepped in. Maybe we broke the law and were cast out, but at least we gained freedom. How is that freedom? It's just fear. Fear of dying. Maybe, but I have the right to die on my terms. Isn't that enough? Kanya's face darkened. Though heaven promised eternal life, death was still a sensitive issue, and Godrock had just crossed the line. Even if you're a heretic, I won't forgive that. I could kill you right here. Sister, no. Kanya pulled out her arc weapon, but Godrock just looked at her calmly, almost sympathetically. Then why did you come to me? What do you want from your sanctuary? Kanya's shoulder flinched. Let me guess, someone in your family is about to receive the elixir of fate. That's why you're here to buy Norse medicine. Her aim trembled. If she let go of the weapon now, there was no way to stop it. But in the end, she didn't fire. Instead, tears spilled from her eyes. What's so wrong with caring about my parents? This has nothing to do with the law. I just want my mom to. Even the man of heaven softened at a woman's tears. Godrock's emotions calmed. He had once been a divine citizen too. He knew how she felt. Rena hugged her sister and turned to Godrock. Sorry, my sister. It's fine. You don't need to apologize to a heretic. The Mecca people are deeply loyal to family. She got carried away. Must be the wound talking. Godrock looked down at his injury. It wasn't deep, but it wouldn't stop bleeding. He turned around and said, Don't worry. Nor people don't attach emotions to things. You'll get what you came for. Just know it will cost a lot of elixir. They're very skilled at business. Kanya wiped her tears and stood firm. Humph, don't worry. I saved enough over the past year. As Godrock walked away, a faint, sad smile crossed his lips. Sharon watched the conversation, feeling heavy. Much of what they said was unfamiliar. The emotions were raw, but the values here clearly weren't absolute. What was the elixir of fate? Was Ra really a god? Was this heaven? Or just another strange world? When this journey ends, will he finally have all the answers? End of chapter 184. Chapter 185. The Reversal of the Law. 6. Godluck. found the place he was looking for not far away, a sunken part of the valley with a narrow crack just enough for one person to squeeze through. From that crack, a thin beam of light was shining down. Look here, Godluck said, pointing to the center of the light. The light was oddly concentrated, like soft, glowing snowflakes. If you looked closely, you could see a tiny particles of light swirling around. Sharon scratched his head, unsure how to describe it. Light wasn't supposed to naturally gather like this. Noreen seemed puzzled as well. Godlock cupped his hands around the light and explained, "See how the light gathers only here? That's because of Jong." Jong? So you're saying this energy is collecting the light? No, it's the opposite. Because light stayed here for so long. Jong formed. Jong can settle in anything, wind, water, even thoughts, if they stay unchanged for a very long time. Sharon thought it was similar to how magical crystals form. When a particular quality remains in one place for ages, it eventually becomes a tangible concept. When Jong gathers long enough, it can become a spirit, a kind of Jong that can move and even make contracts with humans. For example, if you contract with a light spirit, you can use light magic anytime, anywhere. But finding one is extremely rare. Sharon asked, "So this light might become a spirit someday?" "Sure, maybe in 1,000 years. If it doesn't fade away before then." 1,000 years, far longer than a human lifespan. It made sense why spirits were so hard to find. Godluck continued. "Anyway, we can use this spot to reach Noreen's shelter. Everyone, gather here." "But it's cramped. Shouldn't some of us go the other way?" "It's fine. Earth magic is limited in range, but with light magic we can expand the space. Like this." Godluck grabbed the concentrated light. His hand began to glow golden, and the light started spreading up his arm. Soon his whole body would shine. Nature's power is limitless, so humans borrowing that power can also expand its scales. But it was taking a while. Even after a long time, the light didn't pass his shoulders. Godluck frowned. "This is odd. It usually takes just 5 minutes." "Could the light's John be weaker now?" Sharon asked. "That's unlikely. I used it just 3 days ago without any issue. It takes centuries for John to weaken, unless something's interfering. But that's impossible," said Clove. "This place has only one law. That's why it's our waypoint." Then it hit Godluck. It might have seemed like a stretch, but looking elsewhere for the cause was even more foolish. No way. But why? Suddenly, the gutter light began to waver. Then the ground shook violently, as if an earthquake hit the entire valley. "What's going on? What's happening? Everyone's out. It's the vortex. Serpent. The Jong is unraveling." They rushed through the crack, just in time. Outside, the entire area was shaking. Something massive had to be nearby. But when they looked around, there was no snake in sight. "Damn it, where is it?" Rian drew his great sword and stood in front of Sharon. The mages formed into battle positions. Tess sharpened her senses. The tremors from the left and right felt different. The serpent was circling from the right. The ground was shaking so much that Tess could barely stay upright. Something was wrong. At this level of shaking, they should have already seen the enemy. "There, over there," Sharon pointed in shock. On a rock just 3 meters away, crouched a tiny white creature. It had 4 legs and resembled a salamander. Smooth, shiny, almost like carved jade. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. "Is that the vortex serpent?" "No, it's not," Godluck shouted, and Sharon instinctively stepped back. Then, as his view cleared, he saw it, a giant shadow blanketing the entire cliff. The real serpent wasn't the small creature. That tiny body was simply a manifestation created by the serpent's shadow, and that shadow was enormous. The creature's glowing body was casting the massive shadow. As they realized this, the shadow lunged forward, its jaws wide open. The darkness was so vast and overwhelming that they didn't even feel like they were under attack, just consumed. "Danger!" From the crack, Godluck yelled. Sharon's light burst out, just in time. As light exploded, everyone saw how close they were to being ripped apart by shadowy claws. Screech! The vortex serpent howled as it was torn apart by the light. Like Harvest, before, it didn't even have a mouth. How could it scream? The serpent's shadow recoiled like a storm cloud, and they had survived the first attack. A rare thing. Most victims never saw it coming before being devoured. Was that a creature or something else? Amy asked, sweating. "The serpent's true form is the shadow," Godluck explained as he stepped out of the crack. "What you saw in the rock was just an avatar, made by the shadow." "That makes no sense. Shadows can't exist without a real body." "I don't know how it works either. We call this kind of thing a reversal of law. That serpent's a being from beyond this world, a heaven outer. Definitely not from any reality we know. The serpent didn't attack again right away. Light-based beings like Sharon made it hesitate. It had never faced that before. The avatar glowed even brighter. enlarging the shadow, as if showing off, like a wild animal making territory. That made Sharon realize something. This creature acts like a wild predator. Maybe it wasn't a top-level monster in its world, more like a cat or a rat. If it were a top predator, it wouldn't act so defensively. Did you just compare it to a cat? Kanya blurted. But Canis saw the truth too. He watched the serpent in awe. It's real, a world where darkness rules over light. Everything Arcane everything Arcane had hinted at was true. If the rules here are really reversed, Canis added, then maybe all beings exist as shadows. That means the vortex serpent might not have been powerful in its own world. But here, the situation's reversed. Godluck checked the crack again. As expected, the light's jaw was weakening due to the serpent's influence. Escape was no longer an option, but they still had hope. Sharon's light wave had pushed the serpent back. All right, we're not out of danger yet, but its weakness is light. It doesn't attack during the day for a reason. I don't know why the laws are reversed, but if we use light magic, we have a chance. Sharon remembered fighting Harvest. It wasn't force that mattered to darkness, it was energy. He summoned his photon cannon. 8 glowing lights formed, orbiting randomly. They all struck the vortex serpent at once. It let out another horrifying scream. Amy launched fireballs. Fire had light, so it hurt the shadow. The serpent's body caught fire. But the serpent was enormous. It was like an ant biting an elephant. Barely noticeable damage. Canis couldn't even cast his magic. When he tried using dark power, the serpent just absorbed it. Against darkness, only a greater darkness can win. If you're not stronger, you'll be consumed. Sharon broke away from the group. If that shadow curtain came down again, they might not survive. True to its name, the vortex serpent moved in wide spirals. Sharon blasted its side with his photon cannon. The beast screamed and chased him. As it turned, its massive tail swung toward Amy's group. Ah, it's coming, Clove screamed. Amy cast fire mist to protect them, but it wasn't strong enough. As the tail swept in like a broom, Amy added a firewall, finally managing to ignite the serpent's tail. It changed course, avoiding her. Chiron! Amy yelled. The serpent lunged and swallowed Chiron whole. But at that exact moment, light exploded from within. Chiron's berserker light destroyed the serpent's head. He fired photon cannons at machine gun speed. Amy guessed 200 rounds per minute. Chiron held a school record in speed trials after all. The light blast became a continuous beam, driving the shadow back across the cliff. Then Chiron removed mass from the photons, turning the blast into pure light without shock. It couldn't rip the shadow apart, but it burned into it, slowly carving through. What kind of magic is that? That's not even possible, Chloe shouted. Even Kanya and Rena were in shock. Noreen could wield huge power solo, but this was something no one had ever seen. Chiron was fighting the vortex serpent alone and winning. The serpent's shadow clung to the wall, writhing in pain. Chiron's light turned red, ramping the photon cannon into laser mode. By increasing energy levels, the serpent tried to push back with its shadow, but Chiron's beam caused chain explosions, scattering it. Screech! A final roar of fear. The vortex serpent was terrified. In its original world, it was just a low-level predator. It slid through the strange tunnel into his world, heaven, 10,000 years ago. With no natural enemies, it grew lazy. But now that comfort was crumbling, shattered by a human it once thought was insignificant. End of chapter 185.